Is Grounded really going to release in 2022? That's what Adam Brennicky, the game's director, said only back in February, celebrating 10 million players. But something I found today while looking up some other bits of info makes me maybe question that.
Working towards our 1.0 final release of Grounded, which will come out later this year.
The Grounded devs have just arrived in Boston getting ready for PAX. This is a big gaming event. They're going to reveal a whole bunch of stuff from the upcoming update. Could they potentially be going big and telling us when we can expect to play Grounded 1.0? Or is there maybe a delay until 2023 on the cards?
The only one that really has a date is Starfield, right? Redfield, I could see a world where Redfall easily gets delayed till next year. But those are the three first-party games that they really have. Maybe, I mean, Grounded might go 1.0. Now that I think about it, pretty sure I checked in on that, and Grounded might actually not go 1.0 this year.
That's Jeff Grubb, an industry insider, a journalist that works for a couple of outlets, and obviously Game Bomb, and has his own podcast and stuff. Now, he can sometimes get things wrong, but more often than not, his hunches or contact or leaks that he gets hold of often turn out to be true. He was talking in general during this podcast about other games that Microsoft are going to basically be releasing this year, and obviously Grounded might be one of the big ones since it's pretty light. But yeah, as you heard him say, it's not maybe guaranteed, according to him. Devs have got a good history with PAX East. It's where they first revealed some proper full-on gameplay in 2020. Just find it really strange that obviously Adam, the game developer, lead guy, celebrating 10 million players, would be that confident in saying something as like the game would be coming out later on that year. And then only a month later hearing rumours from an industry insider that usually does have a fairly decent scoop on stuff, saying that actually no, it could be, or it might be delayed till next year. Is that even much of a problem? Well, obviously the updates have been, or they've been told they're going to be pretty light. After the Into the Wood update, they did announce that the next update wouldn't be as big as the prepping the rest of the yards for the footprint. Effectively putting more biomes in and getting stuff ready, they just simply didn't have time to add or do a big update. And thinking was that they were adding kind of the end game content there. They didn't want it to all be spoiled literally only a few months before its full release. So the feature board is something I've returned to time and time again, as have other YouTubers, covering what's up next and what we can expect, and so many of these features are still left to be implemented. I'm obviously going to be more inclined to believe Obsidian and Adam. If he says the game's going to come out this year, then I am going to believe that, and that's what I'm going to go with. And when I spoke to some of the Grounded devs recently when they joined me for a little special video with the Valheim devs, they seemed pretty confident that they would be hitting 1.0 and that things were bang on track. But there are a couple features from the feature board that we know Adam's also said we might not get as big a deal made out of, like pet enhancements. In the latest Casually Grounded, where they had Adam on, he spoke about pet enhancements, but he didn't really go into too much details. He didn't sound too hopeful of making huge improvements to the pets, or adding even more creatures to be pets. Not before 1.0 release anyway. So let's go through it then. What can we realistically expect? Say we get the update dropping, surprise update this weekend or next week is what I'm expecting. They've been doing updates every 3 months, so the next update after this is more than likely going to be at some point in July. And if we keep going by that 3-month status, then they might have one again in maybe end of October. So that's 3 updates potentially before a release at what I would say would be a good time, possibly in October. It is a bit close to Starfield, that's releasing in November. And Microsoft obviously do want a steady little supply of games, but Grounded and Starfield are 2 very different properties, and obviously Grounded, 10 million players have already played it. You're surely going to get a whole bunch of people interested in playing it again, but it's not like it's going to be 20 million people all picking up the game on that release date. So it probably doesn't matter as much when Grounded actually releases if it's too close to other big titles. But that said, I would still expect any game studio not to really want too many of their games launching too close to each other. And Grounded is a Microsoft game. So if it's not October, and we're going on that basis that the game probably does need a good couple of updates, then maybe yeah, July could be the time that we see it. And that would be the 2-year anniversary of Grounded. That to me sounds great. 2 years in early access, come out of 1.0, be a game in a very dry summer, excuse the pun, but there really isn't a lot going on this summer in terms of survival, at least anyway. But I do question or worry how all these features are going to be implemented. So let's go for it. Additional quality life improvements, inventory management improvements, something that's in progress and has been in progress for ages. And this is something that you'd expect to be carrying on improved until 4.0. But after that, we've got things like the story, Act 1, obviously being closely guarded. We've got clues and elements with the tapes and cassettes, but we know now that Burgle is going to be moved from the oak tree, or he won't always be at the oak tree, and so we're not going to see that to 1.0. We know the devs have also said they've been working on stuff in the background. The updates that we have seen aren't all the content that they've been working on, so it could be a possibility that all this stuff is kind of almost ready, or they're finishing off the final touches. But yeah, I am starting to feel like maybe Jeff Grubb's got a point. Other things like graphic option improvements, well, these will always be tweaked, and that's usually down to the programmers and such. And Adam did let slip that they don't have as many programmers on the team as other games maybe, or as much as they'd like, because they're the people that are going to be in charge of hopefully trying to get us dedicated servers or a solution to that in the future. But a full completable story, notice it says story Act 1, would that mean that Act 2 and Act 3 would appear after 1.0? Would that be a case of DLC or free update in the future? It's always been a bit weird how this has been separate, and has been ever since the feature board was put up. Kind of makes you believe that the game is going to be bigger and maybe more massive than we think, but if that's the case, then I am kind of wondering why we haven't seen Act 1 implemented, and then just leave Act 2 and Act 3 to be added later, as like maybe the full 1.0 release. Then we've got additional crafting stations, and we'll dive into that and what that can offer us soon. But you may have seen my recent video talking about maybe electricity being added to the game in future, or powered options, and again that is something that we'll see here. That is no mean feat. Getting that right, getting that balance and stuff, surely will take up more time. Additional Burgle quest types. I feel like they're probably just about getting to the stage now where they've tested and tried a few different variations out. So I wouldn't expect 50 different more types, but certainly a few more sort of challenge modes. Additional weapon types. Well, obviously with the new biomes, we're expecting even more tier 3 items and maybe even more tier 4 or even tier 5. And then stuff here that apparently isn't always in progress, but we know that some of this stuff has appeared earlier than even stuff marked out in blue. Storage management improvements, ant pheromone control. New creature, the ant queen. We know this has kind of been in the game already. They've been using placeholders. This was revealed and leaked in the last update that we managed to get hold of using cheat engines. That is what I would expect to see as a 1.0 release. A new area, a new ant queen, giving us all new playable options. And when you think about ant pheromone control, well, why do you want to control ants? 3 reasons. 1, so that they'll be your pets, be your tames. 2, so that you can get them to move away from either you or a specific location that they're guarding. Or 3, possibly even to start a war. What if you can control an army of ants and literally have 10 or 15 of them running around and attacking other creatures? Either way, whatever one of them options that could be, that again is a lot of work. Higher tier armour, tools and weapons, insect pet enhancements, as we discussed that might not be as big as we think. Bird improvements, additional interactions. I think a lot of people have claimed that they would like to be able to ride the bird, and one really super interesting feature would be is if it gave a fast travel option. The grounded map isn't super big. It's one of the reasons that I've shied away from maybe thinking it does need tames that you can actually ride or mount. If they can only add a backwards way of getting up zip lines, i.e. some sort of motor on a zip line, then we really wouldn't need any sort of creature to take us across the yard. We just simply use them to get back and forth. But a fast travel option that would drop you off at the bird bath, the picnic table, the centre of the yard, or even the top of the koi pond, that could be a really interesting feature. Of course, it may have nothing to do with that. It might be just a one-off animation that the bird will help us in some way, shape or form. We simply have to possibly go and feed it some foods, a bit like the brood mother, and it might do something for us. It's not going to be a boss fight. We're not going to be fighting the crow. But I could definitely see it as being something to do with fast travel, or possibly, yeah, helping us out in some way. So that's the main features, and if that all comes as a 1.0 release, in the next sort of 6 months you could maybe go, okay, this is maybe achievable and doable. Wrapping up the areas, giving them a bit of a spruce up, keep adjusting with balance, and now obviously fine tune base defense and stuff, then that kind of makes sense and it seems achievable. It is when you start looking at some of this other stuff though, you start to really wonder whether or not Grounded could achieve a 1.0 this year. Now I'm going to keep the rest of this video brief. I did go in detail about all the other stuff, but I just want to keep it a bit shorter as I've already overrun. But when you think about additional backyard environments, creatures, insects, weather, backyard changing events, crafting materials, powered buildings, control over world options, defences, framework for player generated gameplay, higher tier structures and decorations, some of them are really big features. As said, we know they've been working on stuff in the background, but that is a lot of stuff to get through in maybe 4 or 5 months now. Obsidian do have extra outside help though. Black Shamrock are a development team from Ireland, and I was showing this off a little bit in the video, but I'm working on a bigger Art of Grounded video, and they've actually helped do a lot in the past, like the Koi Pond, art as well as assets. So this is where you start to believe that yep, 1.0 can be achieved, even with so many other things still to be added. They still have Black Shamrock working on stuff for them, and they've been working on stuff themselves. It could happen. The game's had so many updates. I showed you guys the changes with the map that's been made ever since the game came out. We think we might know there's terraniums coming, with obviously mantises and much more, possibly some sort of butterfly boss. But again, when you think about it, when you really start listing all that off, can that all really be achieved in 6 months? When you see how much has been added in the last 12 months, you might go, yeah, sure. But I don't know, I'm starting to think more and more now that we might actually, see a delay to Grounded 1.0, and it still actually might be next year instead. I think the devs absolutely do intend to release it this year. I think they've probably gone and looked at what they've said, and like I said, when they spoke to me a little bit, they did say that things were on track. They didn't give me any details, they didn't certainly give me any secret info, just reiterating what we've heard publicly. But of course it does happen, and we know that sometimes you've got to give a bit of feel good factor. After the latest update Into the Woods, we did get the news that the next update wouldn't be as big or chunky, although it's sounding like it's very big in terms of mechanical stuff, under the hood kind of stuff, changing the gameplay. So it might not have brand new biomes and features, but it is going to be a really big update in my opinion. But yeah, that did kind of put a little bit of a damp squid on some people enjoying Grounded and figuring that we're not going to get updates, and that kind of disappointed a few people. And player numbers did drop off a little bit after everyone got excited about the Into the Wood update. So that's why you normally save some good info like that, and then if bad info happens, well, you can kind of bury that when showing off more new stuff, and everyone will be just hyped and excited for the release. Either way, I'm here for it. I don't really mind or care if it does release this year. I don't think the devs need to rush. I'd like it if they didn't rush. I'd like it if they could implement more features that they want to add and not have anything kind of left out that might damage the game, or kind of give it a bit of a negative review and not be able to fit in the stuff they really want to add. I think they've done a great job. I just want them to have enough time. So there we go. Let me know what you think. Are we going to see Grounded 2021? 2022 even? What month do you think it will release, or do you think it will be delayed to next year? And until then, hopefully I'll see you soon for the big reveals this Saturday and any other teasers that are happening. Bye bye, ratbags.